I was going to tell a dirty joke, but Marlene said I'm not allowed to tell a dirty joke. So I'm not going to do that today. Okay, so I'm definitely not going to do that. But it's amazing. I met people from Puerto Rico, met people from Detroit, Belgium, Brussels, Ottawa, Arnold, and Joburg over there. Okay, George over there. Okay, so it's been amazing. Quite a nice group of people that we've got here. So I'm not going to start with a dirty joke. It's not the right thing to do today. I'm Deon Basson, and I run an international company where we train people communication skills. Do you know that only in 10% of times does an educator completely resonate with a learner? Only 10% of the time. Do you know that the average person only resonates completely with someone 10% of the time? Now, what I mean by resonance, I'm sure you can all remember at school we had those tuning forks. Remember the tuning forks in the science lab? If you hit it, it goes ping as you hit it. Remember that, okay? Now, if you take one tuning fork, it's got a certain frequency to it. And all the forks have got different frequencies. If you take two tuning forks and they've got the same frequency, and I hit the one, and I bring it closer to the other one will start vibrating because it resonates with each other. That's where the term resonance comes from. However, if I take two tuning forks and their frequency differ, I can hit this one as hard as I want, bring it closer to the other one, and nothing will happen here because they don't resonate. The frequencies differ. So when we talk about resonating with people, resonating even between the tuning forks, there are so many different frequencies out there. And when we talk about resonating with people and the way that we communicate, we all differ in our preference in communication. And I like to picture yourself, you get some people that like the facts and the detail. Other people like the big picture. Other people like emotions. Other people like things like the process or the structure of communication. And you can see what happens with the communication. If I communicate in my own preference, and I'm talking to someone else, I might be communicating right past the other person. But not only do we differ in what we communicate, we also differ in our behavior in communication. And again, picture yourself. Some people are very competing in the way they communicate. Other people are collaborating. Other people are avoiding. It's not important enough. I haven't got enough information. I'm not going to talk about it. And other people are accommodating, which means it's not my way, it's your way. You can see I spoke about what we communicate and how we communicate, and think of the chances of you resonating with someone when you communicate to them. They've got their preference, you've got your preference, and you communicate right past the other person, and you're actually doing nothing wrong. If you want to know who you communicate to, go and look in the mirror. You communicate in the way that you preferred to be communicated to, but the other person's not you. And that's where the communication really goes wrong. As I said earlier, the chances are about 10% that you are going to completely resonate with someone when you communicate to them. 60% of the chance we partially resonate with somebody, and 30% of the time we don't resonate at all. Now think about what it means in life. I communicate with someone and I communicate right past them. And to be able to resonate with someone, if you can resonate with them, it's just that gut feeling. I feel good about the message. I love the message because it resonates with me. And, I feel confident about things. And think about it in a classroom situation. There's the kid sitting there. And the teacher only resonates with 10% of them completely. And the other 90%, they don't get the message. And they don't perform that well. And suddenly it touches their confidence on something very simple like that. So how do we change? How do we change from that communication to that? And that's really what our focus is, what we try and teach people. How do I change my communication that I really resonate with someone out there? And I'm sure you've all been in a situation where you communicate to someone and you can just see in their eyes, it's glazed. They're just not getting the message. They're just not getting it. And when you ask them, do you get what I say? They say, yeah, I think so. And you think, why don't you just tell your face that you're actually okay with the message? And, if I talk about that, that's just the one part of how we communicate. But think about the education system today. The education system only resonates with some of the kids in the class. That's why we get some kids performing and other kids not performing. And this happens every single day. Every day, we are failing thousands and billions of learners out there because the educator does not communicate in the way that every kid in the class actually likes it. So I'd like to relate that to where the whole thing came from. So I studied computer science. So I started off being very technical. But within 2 years, I was looking over the fence, looking at the salespeople. Nicer cars. They lunch every day. They play golf. They take the customers out to drinks. And I said, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. And I got into sales. Started working on my first deal, a very big deal. And I thought I had it in the bag. I projected it for the company. We've got that one in the bag. And I lost the deal. And I can't tell you when you're in sales, it was my first sale, you lose it, what it does to your confidence. It breaks you down completely. Luckily, I had a very good sales manager who said to me, Deon, what I'd like you to do, go and speak to the customer. Ask them why you lost the deal. So I went to the customer and I said, can you tell me, why did I lose this deal? And the customer said, we loved your product. We loved the detail about your product. But you never painted a picture of the future with us. You didn't create a vision for us. And the penny dropped. I need to talk about the vision also. Next deal I got. I won the next deal. The next deal, I lost. Even though the fact that I spoke about the vision, I spoke about the detail and the product and everything like that, I lost the next deal. So I did the same thing. I went to that customer, and I said, can you tell me why did I lose this deal? And he said, Deon, you spoke about the detail of the product. You spoke about the future, but you never spoke about our relationship. And yes, suddenly I realized I was dealing with 3 different customers. The one wanted detail, the other one wanted the vision of the future, and the other one wanted emotions. And that's why I lost the deals. And I started with a journey of investigating how people differ in their communication. And then my very last role in the corporate life, I was responsible to change a part of our sales force in Europe. I was based in Brussels at the time. And I had to change our sales force to become more focused on building relationships and building solutions for customers. And I ran into exactly the same thing. More than half of the salespeople did not realize that they sell to themselves. Just go and look in the mirror. That's who you're selling to. And I was very lucky to go to a couple of universities, global universities and big corporates. And we started working on a model about a framework for communication. And we taught the guys the framework, and they improved quite dramatically when they realized I've got to change the way that I communicate. I can't just communicate to myself. I have to communicate and think about the other person. And great success with that. And then I left corporate life. And I said, I'm going to start a company where we focus on psychology of sales. And I started taking that into the market, and it's amazing. We had great success. In fact, our first international business was in the US, Portland, Oregon, that we got the business from. One of our customers that we got at some stage was a very big education publisher. We were teaching the salespeople how to go and sell to the schools. How do you sell this product to the schools? Your book, that they buy your book and not another publisher's. And again, we had really good success with that. And one day in a meeting with that company, one of the people in the meeting said, Deon, I was a teacher. And I've got to tell you, what you're teaching our salespeople, the teachers should know this. And she made a profound statement. She said, because the teachers are salespeople. They're selling knowledge, and if they sell it incorrectly, the kids don't take it in. So you've got to change that. So we embarked on this journey of a roadshow where we went to many different schools and we spoke about what we do. And we started running a program for the teachers on how do we change the way that they communicate to the kids. And in the very first round that we ran, we had an uplift of 16% average of the marks of the kids on the very first program. Now, 16% is a huge difference that makes to the kids out there. So we ran this program, and one of the schools, and this is now here in South Africa, one of the schools became the top academic school in South Africa, using the framework that we talk about now, how to change the way that you communicate. Basically, not to do that, but how do you shift yourself and communicate in a way that resonates with a learner out there. And am I finished? I'm not finished yet. I've still got time. I'm not finished yet. Okay. Do you all know who Jeff Weiner is? He's the chairman of LinkedIn. He's the founder of LinkedIn. And you can think on LinkedIn, they've got a view of the jobs that are being posted and the CVs on the other side. And they did a research. What's the biggest skills gap in the world today? And the biggest skills gap was communication. Number one skills gap. So we thought, but what about the learners? So we now worked with the educators and we changed the way they educate the kids. What about the learners? So we took a bunch of 16-year-olds and said, let's teach them communication skills based on this framework that we spoke about. And I really believe they got it quicker than the educators. They got it like that. Even big laughs. Oh, I can understand why you ask so many detailed questions because you're analytical. Oh, I can understand you're very competing in the way that, and they made it a big laugh. But they learned so well from it that they could apply the communication skills that we taught them. And they can take that out into the world and really go and change the way that they deal out there in the world. The biggest gap in the world is communication. Communication enables all other skills. It enables all other skills. You can have the best skills. If you can't communicate, it means nothing. So if I think about the obligation that we've got as people sitting here, the first obligation we've got is how do we change the educators that they don't break down the confidence, but they build the confidence. How do they break it down if they communicate in a way that doesn't resonate with the learners? But if they can, suddenly their marks go up and the confidence goes up. But in addition to that, what if you can change the learners that when they go out in the world, they've got the most critical skill under their belt? They can change the way they communicate. They don't just look in the mirror when they communicate to a world that's different from them. So I really believe we've got such a big obligation. We've got to move the needle up. We've got to move the needle up from 10%. It's got to go way beyond 10%. We've got to make it to 80%. That when I deal with people, I resonate with them. And this sounds like rocket science that we're teaching people. We taught those kids in one day. They got it. How do I change the way that I communicate when I deal with people? We've got to make sure that the kids use the right tuning fork that resonates with people every single time. So the other side is there's been a very interesting study that was done with school leavers. And they said to the kids, if you could be anybody, who would you like to be? Do you know that over 70% said they would like to be someone else? Which means no confidence in themselves. If we can teach them better through better communication, and we can teach them communication skills, it'll make the world's difference to them. So we really have a very, very big obligation. I thank you for your time.